Mine works.
I probably don't need a microphone, but welcome to Los Angeles and the 2017 NSCAA Convention. My name is David Hicks. I'm actually recently retired after 25 years of coaching men and women's high school soccer and being the athletic director. That accounts for most of my gray hair. And being from North Carolina, if you don't understand me, I have a friend over here from South Carolina who will interpret everything that I'm trying to say for the next few minutes. I've had the privilege of introduce Greg before, and he is quite passionate about this topic. I'm sure you are. That's why you're in here today. He is the NSCAA High School Boys Membership Group Chairman with Ida Baker High School. 30-plus years of coaching, teaching, and building relationships with student athletes, parents, co-workers, and trying to increase the significance of sports participation in our communities. Reading something in his bio recently, I was amazed at the numbers. He is quite passionate about this fact. Youth sports, 70% dropout rate by the time a child has reached the age 14. 25% of coaches quit every year. One thing I've also done since I left from coaching, I'm still involved in the North Carolina girls soccer camp, but I went back to refereeing. And at my age, I don't care what you say to me, but we now have at least 50 out of 300 referees in my association. We have at least, for the last 3 years, 15 quit before the season's already over. Just participation is killing soccer in this country. It's killing everything we got. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Greg Winkler. He will make your teams and your communities keep sports participation relevant. Greg Winkler.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. I know you have a lot of choices, and I'm happy that you picked this topic today. How many of you are high school coaches? Excellent, good. We don't want to offend anybody else from any other area, but we all have issues that we're dealing with, and my presentation it's kind of our hot topic. Has to do with one of our hot topics in how we keep it relevant so the kids are making good choices, we're helping them make good choices, and moving our high school game forward. My objective is to make a difference today, make a difference in everything I do. I want to try to make a difference. That's my philosophy with my team. Today I want to give you some tools that maybe can help you make a difference with your program, with your school, just in general. Maybe there's things on here that you're already doing, but if not, I want to give you some ideas of things you can go forward. And again, it's all about promoting your program, promoting your kids. The biggest thing is we need to identify our issues. There's a lot of things out there. I just put some of them up there. We have coach license issues. We're disrespected in the game a lot of times at our level because we have some fantastic coaches in a lot of high schools, but then we also have high schools that are finding somebody that breathes to put in the program, which doesn't help our cause. The club coaches, I know I moved from Wisconsin to Florida. Wisconsin's program is very, very good relationship with the clubs. You can't play both at the same time. Things work out really well. I moved to Florida, and it's total free agency down there, and you can play club and high school at the same time. And there's a lot of conflicts, and the club coaches aren't necessarily very positive when they talk to their players about high school decisions. And they almost always put it down and classify it as a recreational program. So I don't want us to get in that battle. I don't want to put the gloves on and go to bat with the club coaches. I want to take a positive approach and try to attack some of these things by the program that I have. Making sure they messed up my stuff in the other room. So I want you to think about it as being a salesman. I got my snake oil guy up there selling, but you have to sell a program. My why did I want to present on this topic is because I think that we're often in, I started at a program in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, there's not a lot of support in that town for soccer. There still isn't. It's a basketball, football community. So my battles weren't with clubs. It wasn't with ECNL. It wasn't with academies. My battle was within my own school and how to get people to look at soccer differently. Before I was a high school coach, I took over a club program that had 350 kids in it. And we transformed the club, the philosophy of the club, the culture of the club, and within 5 years we had about 2,000 kids playing select and recreational soccer. And then what happened was the baseball community got mad because we were competing in the summertime, so now we're competing for kids, and they used to be they were the top dog in the community. And soccer was just building and growing, and kids were loving it. We had great people on our board. We were helping our coaches be better. We were keeping the environment positive. We started having coaches from youth basketball who had a kid in the soccer program start to try to get on our board. And they would get on our board, and they would work on our board for about 2 years. We had club volleyball, club football, and club baseball, get some people onto our board, and they were fine. But the reason they came on our board is they wanted to find out what was making us tick and how come we were so popular in the community. So we changed that. So that was my goal as a high school coach, was to try to make my program at the high school the same way. We wanted kids to want to be part of the program. We wanted to highlight all the things they did. And there's a lot of ways to do that. So I'm telling you that you need to sell it. I talked to somebody today, is in the room right now, and he got an award for his team for a sportsmanship award from the NSCAA. He had no problem promoting that award with his community and doing what he had to do there. But he also got a state coach of the year, and his school didn't even know or recognize it. And sometimes you feel like you don't want to be the one to put that out there, but then you need to find a parent or an assistant coach or somebody else to do it for you, because those kind of things need to be promoted. And you feel weird sometimes advocating for yourself, but that's how you get people to recognize what's going on with your program. And when you have those successes, you have to find ways to get those out. So the first thing I want to talk about is the media, because that's one area where we get covered in the media, even a little bit, more than the club kids. The club, if a kid is playing club and he's not playing high school, the kids in his building don't even know he's playing soccer. So we have that out there where if you're a soccer player in high school, wearing the jersey on game day, or the team all dresses up on game day, students come out to watch your game, people in the school are talking about you, and the best soccer player could be walking the hallway and nobody's talking about him because he's not even in your program. He's somewhere else. So we have that connection in our kids. So we have the media available. So local papers, if I don't send in a result, I have a local guy that'll get on me right away and say, hey, I missed your result last night. Somebody sent a picture in for your game. I want to put it in there, but we don't have your result. So they want to put it in the local paper. And if they don't, I'll go back to Fond du Lac again, because truly it was not a soccer community. And they didn't like putting stuff in the paper. People called when there were a big soccer article. If we did something great, they'd put something in the paper, and there would be the old guard in the community that would call up and say, why are you putting soccer in the paper? There's a basketball, baseball, or football community. So we want to promote ourselves. So here's just a couple of things that we did. 1 year, or 2 years actually, we decided that they always advertise the football games on Thursday before a Friday night contest. And there's always an article in the paper, or there's an advertisement or something, so they won't do that for our games. We play more games, but they wouldn't do that. So we went to our local advertising paper, and we said, how much is it going to cost for a square this size in your paper? So then we used kids. We took pictures of our kids. We put the date in there. We put the game in there, and we promoted it. Now, we had to get sponsorship. I don't know. I can't remember. At the time, it might have been $25 for an ad that size. Those are 4 different little ads that we did 4 different weeks. I made sure I got every single senior on one of those, and then juniors after that when we ran out of seniors. But we highlighted our games. We got a local sponsor. We got ourselves in the paper. one of the things that I did, there were never any soccer articles in our paper, and so I went to them and I said, I would like to write a 500-word, whatever, back in the day. Now it's called a blog or something like that, but back in the day, I just wanted a soccer column. I said, I'll write one every week. You tell me what my word count is, and I'll write an article for you every week. So I started out, they wouldn't put it in the paper. They sent me to the local advertiser paper. I said, that's fine. When I went to the local advertiser paper, the guy said, we'll do that for you, but we got to put a sponsor on it. That's $45 a month. So they put 4 articles in for $45. So I did that for the first year. I went out and I had to hump to get sponsorships, and I got different people to do it. And after the first year, I quit sending in the check, and they kept printing the articles. And they kept printing. And then when I would miss a deadline, now I'm getting a call from that paper because there were people that were looking for that article. So I didn't have to pay for it anymore. That's how I got it in there. But I would write about our club stuff. I would write about the high school. I would highlight my kids' successes. I'd write about upcoming games. I'd write about what was going on in the national team. Anything that was soccer related, I would write about, and that ran every single week. So for 14 years, again, that's extra work I did, but the community knew what was going on with my program. They knew what was going on with the soccer kids in our community. Extra advertising, our team made it to the state tournament, so we got extra advertising for that. But they started coming to me and saying, hey, you guys are doing something good. This is what we do when people make it to state. They never did it for soccer before because nobody ever made it. So what do you think? Do you think we'll find some people? And we did, and we got a nice article in the paper when we did that. So it's building that connection. The other thing is, sometimes it's just too much work. Our paper now, well, the paper where I left, it was starting to get pretty bad. It's downsized. There's very little local stuff. They just reprint what was printed in the USA Today. So to help out, I wrote the articles for the game reports. So when I went home at the end of the night and I submitted, put my stats in the computer or whatever, I would write a brief little article about the game, the score, the stats, maybe what happened. I'd either ask a kid a quote or I'd make up a quote, and I'd send it to the paper. So if they wanted to, all they had to do was look it over to make sure nothing was spelt wrong and put it in the paper. Now, a lot of times they used it, they took stuff out of it, and they used it. But what I did was I was doing the work for the reporter so my team got coverage. Then we had a radio station in town, AM radio station that broadcasts every high school football game, every high school basketball game. Home or away, every one of those games got advertised or got promoted. So I went to them and I said, have you ever thought about doing a soccer game? And we got them to do one soccer game every fall for the guys and every spring for the girls. But I had to find a color person. One of the reasons they didn't want to do our games is because they didn't understand it. They had no idea. Like, the guy could come up and talk about who's passing to who, but he didn't know what was going on. So I had to find somebody knowledgeable in our community that would be able to go and commentate on the games. So they started doing that. So now they not only do the high school I was at, they extended it, and they broadcast one of each of the parochial schools in our town. So it's just a matter of getting out there, making connections, and doing some of the work for them so that it's easier. If I do something and put it in their lap, it's a lot easier than going and asking for it. So, but they don't do that for club games. And this is recognition the kids are getting throughout your season, even afterwards. The sportsmanship award comes out, or the academic award comes out, or all conference comes out. Then I send them all that information. I usually include a picture so that if they want to, they can put a picture in as well. So the media is huge, and I think it's something that we have to make sure that we're taking advantage of if we want to promote what's going on in our program. Many of us have you talk about the connection with your school. There's something to be said about, we listened to Shalis this morning for the high school breakfast. He talked about his experience in high school and wearing his letter jacket. There's something about being on a high school team and kids recognizing that you're an athlete on a high school team. So we weren't getting a lot of attendance for a while, so I had a little booster club or parent group, whatever you want to call it. we were always thinking of things to do at games. What can we do to bring our kids in, to bring people from the community in? So the parents, one year the senior parents decided, you know what, we don't want this to end. We want to make sure that since it is our last year, we really want to enjoy it. So as a group of parents, they said, we're going to tailgate before every home game. So there's like 9 home games on the schedule. They set up who was bringing what. They would just send out an email. Everybody on the varsity team would get it, and they would all bring something. So the parents got together. We had a little concession stand with a covering over it. Parents would get together. They would come before the games, and they'd socialize and have a snack and get ready for the game and invite their friends. And then there was always food left over, so after the game, instead of the kids getting done with the game and then bugging out, the kids, my players would go over, there'd be food out, their friends were there, and everybody was welcome to like devour what was left of the food. So it was a great pre- and post-game event that attracted especially high school kids, knowing there's going to be food at the end of the game. They were coming to the game. One year we tried, we did it for about 2 years until our couch got infested with something, but we tried the best seats in the house. So any high school kid that came to the game, and they put a ticket in, they put their name in a hat, and then right before kickoff, so this meant that they had to get there before kickoff. Right before kickoff, we'd pull a name out of there, and there was a cushion thing or like a little couch we got and put in the bleachers, right in front of the bleachers. And we'd put that in, and we held 2 people. So they would get to pick a friend, and we hooked it up with a local pizza place. And at 7:05, kickoff was at 7. At 7:05, the pizza delivery guy would come in and give them a pizza. So they got best seats in the house. They got to sit with a friend and eat pizza during the game. So just another thing. But we had to go out and get the sponsorship from the Domino's or whoever it was that delivered that for us. But as you can see, like we had some games there that just the attendance was phenomenal, and we got things to come. We had parents that would have friends of people that graduate, their kid graduated, but their friends' kids playing, and people would come back. It was a family environment, it was a community environment, and they don't get that when they go on their club games, when they go to those kind of events. So we have to like improve the experience for them. Special events. One of the things I've done, and I'll just make a little quick plug. I just published this book. It's down in the marketplace today. They handed it out this morning at the breakfast. And there's a whole thing on Teacher Appreciation Night. I talked about it last year here when we were in the Hot Topics thing or whatever panel thing we had last year. And I talked about Teacher Appreciation Night, and I got a bunch of requests from people that were in the building. How did you do that? What do you do? Because they want to do it. And I'll explain it to you briefly. We looked for special events to bring in other people, because we were getting mom and dad now, and we're getting the family, and we weren't getting the teachers, we weren't getting a lot of we wanted to get more student body, whatever. So we're always looking for things to do. So we came up with Teacher Appreciation Night. And my players would all of them, all the varsity guys, we keep about 22, they would all go pick a teacher. They'd give me a teacher's name, and then we would send them an invitation. You've been selected as a teacher of significance for this player. We're having a Teacher Appreciation Night game in 3 weeks. Please confirm that you can be there. We'll do a recognition at halftime or prior to the game, whatever worked out. They would get a snack from the concession stand. They'd give me their t-shirt size. The day before the event, I would make sure the t-shirts got delivered to whatever school they taught at. I strongly encourage the kids to go after middle and elementary teachers, because those teachers go absolutely nuts when a high school boy or girl remembers them and invites them to Teacher Appreciation Night. So they would I would get those to those elementary teachers, and if I didn't get them to them the night before, they were like calling me up or calling the school office and saying, "Where's my t-shirt?" Because they wore them during the day that day at their school, and they just wanted to strut around with this shirt on. And so we give them a shirt, we recognize them at halftime. It got to the point where the teachers would bring the players little gifts. So they'd give them a little gift basket or something at halftime or whenever we did the thing. And then, again, the social, because we already had the tailgate party after the game, there was a lot of communication with the staff that showed up. Because it was Teacher Appreciation Night, we got the school administrator to come to a game, which didn't happen a lot. So that was just an event that really took off. The school I left in Wisconsin, 8 of the other programs started one of these in the time that we left, by the time I left. So volleyball, wrestling, boys and girls basketball. These other programs picked up on it, and everybody was, it was like my friend always said, we were often copied but never duplicated. That was kind of things that we try to do. So then I moved to Florida, and we started doing it down there, and they never experienced anything like it. So it's a very positive thing that you can do. I know that if you coach girls, there's a lot of times there's a cancer awareness game that you can do. We've done that in Wisconsin. We had a guy that would coordinate and try to say, hey, during this 2-week time period, can you try to hook up with another team, and we'd get T-shirts. So instead of our jerseys, they'd order T-shirts, and they have the event on it with their number. And both teams would have a cancer fundraiser thing. It was really a nice event. It worked really well with girls. So that's another thing where but then again, take a picture, write an article, send the stuff to the paper, make sure your administrator gets it, school administrator gets it. So even if it doesn't get in the paper and they chose not to attend the event, they know that you are doing something special with your program, but parents know you're doing something special. And people talk. And then when they start talking about their high school experience and their friend chose not to play and go do something else, they want to drift back in because of the sense of community and because there's some really great things going on. So, and that's what it's all about is the experience and how we're helping them grow as young adults. Alumni, again, we do some stuff with our alumni because in Wisconsin we were able to. In Florida, I'm not so sure. I haven't checked the rule yet. I haven't done anything yet. I haven't been at the school long enough to really get a grasp on our alumni. But we always had an alumni scrimmage. You can have a scrimmage at the beginning of the year in Wisconsin. So we would have an alumni scrimmage. And we would we'd send something to all our alumni. We would charge like $15 for them. We'd give them a shirt. So the shirt costs $6. They're basically making a donation back to the program. And then however many guys we had, I think one year we had enough to make 5 teams of 15 with the alumni. And then we had the JV and the freshman team and the varsity, and we had 4 fields available. So we would have a little like round robin thing or a little tournament. And then that was it wasn't great competition for the varsity team, but it brought everybody back. It brought the older guys back. There were guys there. I think the first year of the program was 1986. And we had 2 guys from 1986 that would come back and play. And they just wanted to see what was going on with the team and get a look at the kids. And they missed it. And they played a little bit. You know, we have to have extra ice on hand for those old guys. But it's a great event. And then we found this great fundraiser where we needed bodies to show up. So we started having the fundraiser prior to the alumni event. And we told the alumni if they got there early to be part of that, their registration fee went down a little bit. So we got the alumni connected, okay? And as those alumni get out, a lot of my kids, they didn't necessarily go on to, they went to Division I colleges, but they went for their academics, and they have like pretty nice jobs now. So it was building a pool where at some point I could send them a thing and say, hey, remember your team? We could use a little funds for some new goals or something. And now you can tap into the fact that they're very successful. They remember their experience. Maybe you can tap in financially that way a little bit. But that's another way we kept the community together was by having alumni events. Team building. I'm like a firm believer in team events outside of the soccer field. I'm just going to show you some examples of things we've done in the past. This was by far our best team building event. We did it for 3 years back in early 2000, 2001, 2002, something like that. Or maybe it was just after that. I think it was 3, 4, and 5. There was a local Army recruiter branch, and they have a training facility that was about 2.5 hours away from where we live. So we had this great idea of taking our boys away from, right after tryouts, we had a 3-day trial period, and then we would make our varsity and JV teams, and then we'd have a freshman team. But there was room for like 2 teams. So we would take our varsity and our JV team. The National Guard would come in with a bus. My boys would pile on the bus. They'd have a bag for like 3 days, 2 nights, 3 days, and they took us to the National Reserve place. Nobody had cell phones. They put them away. I had mine. Parents needed something, they could contact me. But we went there. We stayed in the barracks. We got up in the morning. We ran. We went to breakfast. We did a bunch of different things. They had an obstacle course. We had challenges on the obstacle course. We had a little area where we did soccer for about an hour and a half a day. But we did some low rope challenges with a leadership anti-substance message, all put on by them, and it didn't cost us a dime. Didn't cost the kids any money, didn't cost us any money, and it was a fantastic experience. But then as tensions heated up, we couldn't have access to the base anymore. So then we had to start looking at some things on our own. I'm a bike rider, so I really like bike riding, and I like having the kids do something different. So we had a 20-mile bike race every year. In Florida, it's pretty flat, but in Wisconsin, there are hills everywhere. So we have this route called the 7 Hills route, and they're brutal. So every year we had this race. We would have a race. So I'd get extra people there. It's out in the county. We didn't have to ride too far. We'd ride together, and then we'd get to a point and we'd start the race. And we'd have 2 water stations on the route, and we'd have parents at different intersections. They were country roads, not a lot of traffic, but we still have parents out there. And we would start the race. So they were competing. The top 10 guys got T-shirts, and then everybody was timed. And so we'd do a race in the morning. We'd bring in lunch, and then we'd have a practice in the afternoon. And the kids just loved it. And some kids wore goofy stuff. They'd wear goofy helmets. That kid took his helmet off, but they had to have helmets on. We took care of all the legal stuff and to make sure everybody was safe. But it was an event we did, and they looked forward to it every year. Guys would train a little bit extra in the summertime, knowing that they wanted to compete to be top 10 in this and get one of those T-shirts. So that was something that we did annually. The next picture just shows we're just doing a bunch of activities at the high school. When we lost the boot camp that we did, we made our own. So we would have it at school and it would be all day long. They would go home. We didn't keep them overnight at school. And then I had a friend that had a youth camp not too far out of town. So the last 2 years that I was there, we talked to him, and he didn't charge us anything and let us come into his youth camp. He had horses there. He had a big barn that had like a dirt floor where we could play inside on. He had outdoor fields. He had a gym that he actually had, so we could do some scooter stuff in there. He had all this stuff because he was running a youth camp. And we picked a weekend that wasn't busy for them, and he let us come in and do that. And then all we had to do is we got food and we provided the meals. But we looked for different things that we could do to make the experience different. We want to do things that other programs in school weren't doing. Remember, I wasn't doing this to battle the club. I was doing this to battle other clubs. Like my girls were always competing. I was always competing with club volleyball and club basketball for my soccer girls. For soccer, I'm competing with the football guys. Were always after my players because we played the same season, and the basketball guys were always trying to do something in the fall when we're playing. And hockey's big, so they were trying to get kids to play fall hockey. So I was doing things to get kids to stay in my sport, not necessarily to compete with a club, but it set us up for things. When those problems started coming, we already had some great things established. The other one is just a pasta party. We would do, prior to games, somebody would volunteer their house, make pasta for everybody. The kids would all go over there. They'd eat pasta the night before. So if it's a Thursday night game, we picked like 4 games a year. And so we got parents that would combine. Like, I got a big house, but I don't want to cook for all those people. And this mom would say, I love cooking, so I'll come over and cook. And then they'd team up, and they'd get all the stuff. We didn't have to spend any money. The parents would do that. And so we'd have pasta events, pasta parties. One of the things that was really cool is I had a good relationship with our swim coach. Girls swimming's in the fall. So we would play an annual, during homecoming week, that's a big week, a lot of distractions. Football is a priority. So we usually had a game on Tuesday and Thursday of that week. And then the football game was on Friday. So on Wednesday, we would have a water polo match against the girls' swim team. And it was super fun. Most of my guys couldn't swim, so it made it more challenging. But we always beat them because we were, they could throw harder. But it was a blast. They had a great time. It was good with the girls. We went on some canoe trips. There was a canoe place not too far away, so we would get a bus and we'd go to this canoe thing. It was a 3-hour canoe trip. It'd be like a race. People would race ahead and then sit and hide and dunk people when they came by, and they'd taken these fiberglass canoes out of the creek. It was a lot of fun. So just another different thing to do. One other thing in regards to homecoming week, that's a bad night to have practice on Friday, right before the football game. So instead of that, and I was always worried about what they're doing after school, a lot of teepeeing going on in Wisconsin. So I would have practice at midnight. So I would say, go to the game. We're having a midnight practice. We'd go to our game field, turn on the lights, and we would have practice. Depending on when the season was for football, when their game was, it could be pretty cold. One year we were practicing on the field, and all of a sudden these white things were coming over the fence, and there's no snow on the ground yet. And there was a carload of guys that were egging us because they knew we were having practice. So the guys sprinted after them and found, got a license plate or whatever. Those guys got pulled over later, and they were all intoxicated, so they all got tickets. So we got revenge on them. But it was a great event. I knew where my kids were. 1:30, they'd either go out to breakfast together or they would go home. But their parents, they knew ahead of time, and it was just the varsity team. So it was, again, it's something that we're doing that other people were not doing. The NSCA has great awards and academic. This is our school. I don't know if they'd let me do it anymore, but when we opened a brand new school in 2000, and we got the National Academic Award that year for boys and girls. So I went and got them plaqued, and I went to my AD and I said, hey, can we put those up on the wall over here? There's nothing on the walls yet because we're in a new school. Now there's a string of those. I think my time there, we got 17 academic awards, and those are big. So they're all the way down this wall where we have soccer awards. But that's one where you get that award and you get the press release from the NCAA and you send it to your administrator, you send it to your principal, you send it to your superintendent, send an article to the newspaper, and just promote academics, because we're not just playing soccer. We're trying to get these kids to be good students. So we promoted that. There was a kid at the school I'm currently at that wanted to come back and play soccer for me. Last year, I don't even know who he was because I'm not in the school that I coach at now. And he wanted to play, and his mom's sending me this thing about how great player he is and how he's playing on this club over here or whatever. And I'm like, that's fine. We'll welcome him as a senior to come back to the program. And then I get his GPA report, and it's like a 1.8. I'm like, that's not happening. So there's a higher standard of accountability. So celebrate it. We strive for it. The current team I'm at, we're not very close to the academic standard yet, but we're working on it. But again, celebrate your program. Community service is another thing that we want our guys to get involved with. So during the season, I try to plan some community service things. My girls, when I came down to Florida, there was a nursing home right next to our school. So we went over to the nursing home and talked to them about coming in. We came in every other week I think it was a Thursday or something. We would come in at, my school gets out really early. Our practice is over by 4:30. So my girls, we only needed, the first time we took them all. And then after that, we just needed 4 girls every other week. So we set up a schedule. And we went over there and played balloon or beach volleyball. Okay, so they'd set up a little net and they had a little beach ball, and we'd play volleyball with the old people. And it was just hilarious. And the girls would wear their stuff, they'd wear their school stuff, and they'd interact with these people. They're in a nursing home. They're not getting out much. And it was really cool event to do. We've done some leaf raking projects in the community. I've been trying to get involved with Special Olympics in Florida to have my kids go and do some stuff with them. That hasn't quite worked out yet. But But look at some different things you can do. I know we've had some functions in the town I came from where they'd have a big festival and they need people to come and just move stuff. So we'd volunteer our guys and they would go and they'd put up barricades or cordon things off or whatever. But they're always wearing their stuff and promoting our high school soccer team all the time. They're doing that. Behavior accountability. Many of you have athletic codes. I was shocked when I went to Florida and we had no athletic code. I asked my first superintendent or my first AD when I went down there, I said, do you have an athletic code? Because I'm getting stuff ready to pass out to my team. And he goes, what's that? And I said, an athletic code of conduct, if they get caught drinking or something. And he goes, oh, we don't have that. Said if we had that down here, we wouldn't have any football teams. So they don't have an athletic code. So, but it's important to get your kids to understand the effects. So we talk about that. I'm working on my own little athletic code, but I have to present it to the AD. He has to approve it, then it has to go to the principal. And they're real reluctant in Florida to do that kind of stuff because it's such a litigious state. Everybody's looking to sue somebody for something. So they're really leery about that, but I can have my own things. In the middle, when I was at the middle school teaching, I was coaching at the high school, but at the middle school teaching, and then I ended up going to the high school to teach. I started this group called Free to Play. So it was a group of kids that wanted to make good decisions and help other people make good decisions, other students make good decisions. So we started this little group called Free to Play, and it was open to any athlete. And we started out with just picking the captains of teams. So I had a group of about 24 kids, and we would meet once a month and have a donut and talk about some events we could do or how we could promote positive choices outside of school and how you can keep your teams from showing up at that house party or whatever. And by the time I left there, that had tripled. I don't know if they just all wanted a free donut, but they all wanted to get involved because we were doing some cool things. And it wasn't just my program. It was volleyball players and football players and other teams were having kids show up to this. And then I talked my AD into giving an award out at the end of the year for kids that were involved in that program. So there are things we did that got our kids getting other kids involved. And then if you're ever up for an NFHS coaching award, one year I got a state coach of the year thing and I got to submit for the NFHS and I made it to the next level because they look for stuff like that. When you get nominated for those kind of awards, they give you extra points for different things you do. So a drug and alcohol thing is huge for that. So it doesn't only help your program and your team. There's going to be that one time where you get an opportunity, and it's going to hopefully benefit you as something else you can put on your resume. So again, in my situation, I'm working on a team contract because we don't have an athletic code. But I talk to my kids about making good choices, not because it's illegal, but because there's a lot of scientific data saying, don't do this, because this is what it does to your body, and this is how long you have to recover. If you just watch the Green Bay Packers beat the Giants, there was a lot of stuff about going on a little boat trip to South Beach, and the receiver said, it's 7 days away, it's got no effect, okay? But when you have a drinking episode, and they probably weren't just drinking on that boat. When you have a drinking episode, which is over 5 drinks, it reverses it takes 14 days to gain back what you just lost by doing that. So I try to get my athletes to understand that when you do that, we're right here with the other team in our conference. We're going to battle them down the road. If we have a team member or a couple team members that make a poor choice, then that little extra edge we might have just went down. And if their team is doing the right thing, we're going to struggle to get them down the road because we just got a 2-week setback. So I try to put it in that respect instead of being illegal or your parents don't want you to do it because they don't care what their parents think. They're making those choices. So try to hit them up that way. Scholarships. One of the big things is scholarships. What are you doing to get my kid a scholarship? Or if I go play for that club, they're telling me that they're going to help with college coaches. So I looked on the NCAA website, and I got some information. And I share this with parents who are having questions, okay? 2% of high school athletes earn an NCAA scholarship. The average scholarship is $11,000. If you had a kid that went to D1 or D2 to play college, find out what their scholarship was. Find out how much they actually got, because nobody gives full rides. Football gets a full ride. According to the NCAA, football gets a full ride, men's, women's basketball, women's gymnastics, volleyball, and tennis. Those are the sports that give full rides. Nobody else does. A college, D1 college men's program gets 9.9 scholarships, and I think women get 11.2. That's how many scholarships they get. So they split them up, and they look for academics. So, yeah, I get to go to this school. It costs me $40,000 a year, but my scholarship is 11. So parents don't understand what it means. They spent more money traveling with their club team than they're going to get for playing college. So those are just some more statistics about a D1 athlete is a full-time job. They said for a football player, it's 43.3 hours a week that guy is committed to football. Okay? I had two girls one year that went, two great players. One went Division I to University of Milwaukee, and one went Division III to Concordia, or one of those small Division III schools. The Division I player, it became a job. She played a little bit her freshman year, a little bit her sophomore year, and she was done. She was done playing soccer. The other girl who wasn't quite as good, great kid, good player, but not quite Division I, went to Division III, freshman player of the year, had a conference championship as a sophomore. Her junior and senior year, the team didn't do as well, but she was a captain her senior year, and she had an incredible experience playing soccer in addition to her education. So they're the people that are out there looking for the D1 stuff, and they think that by playing on this team, they're going to go D1. They need to talk to players that are involved, because it might not be exactly what they think it's going to be. So the scholarship thing, I think you can help clear that up with parents. Just some statistics. High school, there's 432,000 high school players. There's 24,000 that play at the NCAA level. And then it's 5.7%. And only 1.3% go from high school to D1. So the percentages aren't even there to justify the stuff they're talking about. When I talked last year, I talked about core values. And I think that having core values with your program does a lot for parents. Like, my parents know that the kids on my team, I'm not at a very good school right now. I'm at a school that's got a school that has a culture problem as far as behavior, how they can act, just in general, not just on the soccer field, but in general. There are a lot of entitled kids, just a lot of behaviors that need to be addressed. So the Baker Bulldogs are my team, so I came up right away before I took the job. I went to my AD and said, do you guys have any core values for the athletic department? Because I would definitely support those, and they didn't. So I said, can I implement my own? So I came up with 6. So now when we have an issue on the team, we get too many yellow cards, we have a sit down and we say, how does that go with our respect column? How does that go with our value of sportsmanship? So I have values that I hold the kids accountable for. The school I teach at doesn't have athletics, but we're the FSWC Buccaneers. We have them for our school. It's a small public charter school, and we preach those things to our kids. And it's amazing the difference in the school environment to what I came from. I was ready to give up teaching until I went down there, because it's totally different. And when you put an emphasis on that stuff, and the kids respond, it makes your job so much more enjoyable to be part of. End of the season banquet. I just want to mention this because I just thought it was something everybody did. I have great banquets. I make fun of all the kids. I make them a little goofy prize. And I wrote a lot about this stuff is in the book. But I make them goofy stuff, and I talk about each kid at the banquet. When I went to Ida Baker High School, they never had a banquet before. They had no idea what I was talking. I went to the parents. I said, this is what I want to do at the end of the year. Do you have a plate? They go, what are you talking about? We've never had that. Like last year, the year before, the coach had pizza in the cafeteria. The guys didn't like him or didn't respect him. 4 kids showed up. So he's giving out awards, and he has 4 kids show up for pizza. So we had this banquet, and it was just phenomenal. I do a PowerPoint presentation. I give out my awards, and everybody leaves with something goofy, a story. Anytime something happens during the season that's kind of funny, I don't share with the parents right away, but I nail them at the banquet. And it's a blast. It's super fun. So if you don't have something like that, you need a recognition event. I usually invite the AD or a principal, try to get one of them there just to see what we're doing with our program. I think it's time for questions. So I just want to tell you that this just came out and it's down in the marketplace. It's down in the NSCA marketplace. And it's a great tool, I think. It doesn't talk about what to do on a corner kick or anything like that. It talks about your banquet. It talks about things to do at the beginning of the year. It talks about team building, team bonding activities. It's all those kind of stories. The Teacher Appreciation Night information's in there. My email's up there. If you have any questions, and again, I'm on the high school advocacy boys membership group. Howie Putterman's over here. Raise your hand, Howie. He's on the girls membership group. So if you want to get involved or have anything you think we need to work on as a group, you can email. If you have questions yourself about anything I talked about today, you can email me. There is a Hot Topics later today at 3:45 that might be worthwhile attending, depending on what kind of conversations we get going there. So I'll open it up for questions if anybody has any. We got this cool ball now. Anybody have a question? That was a good toss.
So you said that in Florida, there's no, basically players can play high school and club.
Yeah.
Essentially, and there's not really, I'm from Colorado, and I can tell you right now, when I was in high school, there's no question high school soccer, at least in 2000, 2004, it was the carrot. I mean, you won state, that meant absolutely. A lot more than club. Yeah. But the other thing I noticed was the best players in the club, the best players in all the clubs and the best players in the state, some of them played for high schools that were awful. Right. So there is a sort of a balance. I'm just curious how that works and how well that works in Florida, because I've never heard of that. It sounds cool, actually.
You got to understand, Florida is like where everybody wants to go. So when there's tournaments, I know that clubs are supposed to take off for the 3 months of the high school season. They're supposed to take off. But Thanksgiving break, we have a whole week off for Thanksgiving break. I don't touch my players because they go back to their clubs and they're always in a tournament at Disney or some other place. So then Christmas time, there's like a 2-week period. Same thing happens. So I knew that going in that, hey, they're going to go play with their club. I don't care. They're still playing. I don't have to give up I got vacation, So, but what's happening is the clubs don't have anybody governing them. That's not written in stone. So now they're doing a showcase tournament on the weekend. So what happens is there's no communication. They really truly believe high school is recreational. They tell their kids that all the time. I really only have 7 select players, club players on my team. The rest are all rec players. So the 7 guys, they're sometimes going to double practices that I don't always know about. We've been playing 3 games a week, which is brutal. And then they've been going to a showcase and playing 4 games on the weekend. And they come back on Monday and we have a game right away. And I didn't know it. I put a kid on the field and he's limping in 10 minutes. I got to bring him off. And then he tells me that he was at a game. It's so in Florida, it's like total free agency. It's absolutely a different experience. But they want to play the kids still want to play for their high school team. So those kids are trying to make it work. Whether it's healthy or not, that's a problem. The ones that play academy, we have more academies in Florida than Wisconsin doesn't have any. They didn't when I left. They had 1 ECNL girls team in Wisconsin. So it wasn't a problem. And the club coaches were the same guys that would go and coach a high school team. So there's really good relationship. And they recognize, hey, this club team is superior. And then now the high school season comes and 5 go to that school and 3 go there. And that's fine. They're playing with their friends and they're getting all the benefits of playing high school soccer. But they can't play during the club at that time. So it works really good. And then you go down there and it's and I'm afraid that the movement is going to be more that way than what's going on in the Midwest or wherever. So anybody else have a question?
Anybody else? Need the mic.
Mike, have you ever had to deal with a death?
A death? No. One of my chapters talks about a shooting we were involved in at a hotel when we went to the state tournament. And that was scary because we had a guy go off and fire like 50 rounds of AK-47, kill 2 people, wound 2 people on the floor above where my team was staying. And that was traumatic. It wrecked our experience down there for sure. But that was traumatic. And going through a death would just, I knock on wood, I haven't had to do that yet. Yeah, it's,
You were lucky that you lived, but it was just.
those are devastating things.
We actually had to play it with a player family member. And we made it sure that we went to the home, we went to the service. We also made it clear to this girl's parents that we needed her back not to play. We needed her back because she needed us also. And we tried to emphasize to the family how important Sally or whoever it was, it didn't matter if she was the 13th player or the first player. Because we've always tried to do a bit
We
family.
got lucky that we went far enough in the tournament that the doctor released her. Like, and we lost that last tournament game, but she got to start and she played for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
One thing I would like you, if you have a real strong argument, weak opinion, speak to Greg and this gentleman too, who are the women's high school representative. One thing, I was in a meeting yesterday, and one thing that looks like they're doing is the NSCAA is sliding a lot of high school stuff, correct me if I'm wrong, to what they want to call Super Saturday. So a lot of coaches at the high school level can't get here Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I've been going to the high school breakfast and the women's breakfast for like 20 years, one morning, one the next. I bought 2 friggin' tickets and showed up, and they're the same day. So, you know, what the heck? So express, you know, your thoughts to these gentlemen. Is that a good idea if we get more people in here? Y'all are gonna start selling one-day passes. I think they stopped that for several years. They're
Yeah.
trying to get the high school people back in here.
Like today we have, I think the rules meeting's coming up, and then we have, where's our other coach in here? Sunnyvale, is it? Presenting on what he does here in Florida. That's at 2:15, I think, and then we have the hot topics at 3:45. So if you want to, you have a whole day of high school related activities. If that's a good thing, we need to know. If you want to spread out again, you know, we need to know those kind of things. But if you have something that's burning issue in your state, it might be somewhere else. Like let us know, because that's what our team does, is we look at issues and then we figure out a plan of attack and how can we, and again, we want to be positive. We don't want to come in and bash, hey, you want to go play for Academy, go play for Academy. But guess what? You're missing all these great things we're doing at the high school level. And whether we're winning a lot, we're doing all this other stuff, it's fun. And it's contagious, and you start winning because the kids, they buy in and they want to be part of that. So, any other questions? If not,
Thank you, Greg.
thank you very much for attending. Good luck.